How do you even talk about a great rock band in 2025? Are there original thoughts that are possible talking about usually dudes playing some guitar and bass and drums and all that? Is it even really possible to have new thoughts and new creations? Of course it is. But for the most part, what we're looking for is people doing what other people have done, but well, in an interesting way, in a way that's original, but perhaps not absolutely mind blowing. So, in that way, perhaps it's best to think of it as like, did I say perhaps twice in the first 30 seconds? Bad for audience retention, Sky. And this lighting, it's terrible, but I'm out on the porch, my daughter's taking a nap. You got to do what you got to do. Perhaps, if what you're trying to do is make something interesting and all of the chords have been written, all of the riffs have been written, perhaps what you can do is you can combine things in interesting ways. And I think that's what Viagr Aboys have done with all of their music that I've reviewed. And this new album, Viagr Aboys, or I think that's what it's called, Viagr Aboys, or is it Viagr Aboys? Whatever it is, they're continuing to do this excellent production of rock and roll music, but with that post-punk flair. And what I finally landed on, and if you've seen my thumbnail, I think you know where I'm going with this, and I might even title the video that, I'm going to do the rock thing. I'm going to do the rock and roll critic thing and just say they are Rolling Stones meets Devo. And even the cover is an indication of that. You might not know. Beautiful cover, a weird image with this like person where the only really recognizable part of their face is their lips, like the Rolling Stones logo, and they have a pyramidal hat like Devo had, their famous pyramidal hat. So I don't know, maybe it's on purpose, but let me tell you why. Because I don't have like most people have a kind of cartoonish understanding of who the Rolling Stones are. God damn, do I sound pretentious? Perhaps I don't. I have a really deep love for the Rolling Stones. And not the legend, but the actual band. The way they make great music, and especially the way they have a lead singer who appears to be more lead singer than man. More lead singer than human. And I think that's part of the benefit of Viagr Aboys, is in a world of great post-punk bands, most of the lead singers follow the Kurt Cobain model of, I don't want to be it, I don't want to be it, I don't want to be it, I'm not a, no, don't look at me, don't look at me, I just... Whereas Sebastian Murphy of the Viagr Aboys is just coming right out there and just being lead singer. The knob is turned all the way up. And not to mention, much like Mick Jagger, he does mostly spoken word verses with sung choruses and hooks. There just happens to be some parallels there. And also, the fact that when you listen to Mick Jagger, you're like, is this dude, wow, why is he using this really thick, heavy Southern accent if he's like from Hackney or Squatney, wherever it is that he's from in England? And you feel the same kind of way about Sebastian Murphy, who grew up in San Rafael. Nice place. I've been there. I had really good burritos in San Rafael. But people from San Rafael don't talk like this. All right? They talk like the Californians from that TV sketch, The Californians. It's a very California place. It's in Marin County, okay? The finest county is what they call themselves. Interesting place. So this exaggerated American accent. But what about them makes them Devo? Well, I talked about it on their last album, which is still probably my favorite Viagr Aboys album, but just because it turned up the Devo a little bit more, because it had a little more synth sounds. But what they're able to do that Devo does so well is, because really Devo is kind of the next Rolling Stones, depending on how you look at their music. Their cover of Satisfaction was famous, but also they just musically fit really well in with them, even though they were using all these synthesizers and these kind of far out sounds. But just this obsession with great melodies, a self-effacing masculinity that is simultaneously toxic and critical of toxic masculinity. And this is the thing, punk and post-punk. What's the difference? I'm sorry, my leg keeps falling asleep whenever I record on the porch, so I'm going to keep moving around. The difference between punk and post-punk, I think I've been able to break it down like this. Punk says, society sucks. And then post-punk says, and so do I. And that's basically the theme. That's the theme. Society sucks and so do I. Or maybe so do we. That appears to be the primary theme that we have here. I will say, if there's one thing I don't like about this album, is something that I also kind of do like about it, speaking out of both sides of my mouth, which is that it can veer into the jock jam. If you don't know, there used to be things called CDs, and there used to be compilation CDs that were made of songs just for sporting events. Songs like Untitled Number 2. What's that song? By Blur. Da-na-na-na-na. Hey, da-na-na-na-na. Woohoo! And then the one by Gary Glitter. Don't download that song. The guy's a criminal. Yeah, those kinds of songs that get you pumped up in between periods at a hockey game. At times it feels that way. At times it feels like it is the logical inheritor of The Hives, a band from the early 2000s that I liked quite a bit, but it's another kind of Swedishy punk band using their Swedish excellence, their excellent social safety net to be artists, and I don't know. But the main thing that's most important, and what I think is the positioning. The positioning of, because Mick Jagger's not funny. Mark Mothersbaugh is hilarious. Devo is hilarious. And when they're funny in a way that's serious. They are being dead serious while making you laugh. Whereas, I don't know, I sometimes get the sense that Mick Jagger doesn't take anything seriously when he writes anymore. His comedy, the comedy of this album, is based on his own weakness and societal weakness. Just a little shout out here, because rock and roll magazines aren't doing so hot. This is Cream magazine. They resuscitated it. I have a subscription here. And there's actually a pretty good quote in here about Sebastian Murphy and about the band. So I thought, I got to put my microphone down. I'll just put it right down there. But how unpleasant was that sound? You tell me in the comments how unpleasant that sound was. And now I can't find it. I dog-eared it and everything. We're going to be talking about dogs, don't you worry. Lots of dogs in this album. Why am I not finding this? Okay. Seriously? This magazine is not even that big of a magazine, and I had it prepared right beforehand, and I did the dog ears. Okay, here we go. Jokes are a way to tell people truths that they are otherwise not ready to hear. And there are days when the only way you can feel any kind of control over a shitty situation is to remember you have the power to laugh at how bad things are. Sometimes a hilarious idiot is the only person you can trust. Good writing. Quoting Sebastian here. Everything is miserable right now. We've got a bleak, bleak future ahead of us, and we've got to keep our humanity. I think humor is a part of humanity as well. It's also so healing in a world so divided, it can bring people together as well. Maybe I have a lot of beliefs that are on one side, but I don't. I don't hate everyone who doesn't believe the same thing as me. I want people to be able to be joined in humor. I think that's so important if we're going to make this shit work and if we're all going to survive and not just kill each other. All right, so props to the writer of this interview, Michael Tedder, Tedder. Look at me giving props to music journalists, real music journalists, not dudes who already have their left leg asleep. And have I muted the mic yet? No, I haven't. This is great. So this album, I think, is primarily jokes, but it's jokes about a very sad, serious thing, which is our inexorable... God damn, Sky, keep it easy. Take it easy with the vocab words. Our inexorable slide into fascistic global hegemony. This is just how I talk, all right? You can't stop me. Prof's got a prof. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who will let you know he's a French professor. But really about the way that our entire globe is devolving. And that's part of what the last album was about, Cave World. Not Cave Town, that's a band. Where everything's just slipping and devolving into more tribalistic stupidity. And this album is a lot about tribalistic stupidity. I don't think it's only about America and only about Trump, but it is about America. It is about Trump. Because listen, if we're going to talk about de-evolution happening, if we're going to talk about human civilization going backwards, we are going backwards like really fast. Like we are really, really going backwards, and it sucks. So let's go through the album. Let's go through track by track. Let me make sure I'm actually recording here. That would just be perfect if I didn't. Hey, tell me, what do you think about my rougher style here? The fact that I'm on the floor, CJ the X style, and I'm moving around so much, and I made you wait while I flipped through the magazine. Is that just unprofessional, or is it kind of enjoyable with this punky album, this post-punky album? First track is called Man Made of Meat. Very Devo, okay? Devo is obsessed with what makes a human being a human being. What is it about us that is not just a monkey? Dad rock, pumped up barbecue style drums and the nice like okay, all right, okay to get started. And then these lyrics lays it all out. Overweight freaks ride around on wheelchairs motorized by electric motors made by goblins in a factory overseas. He said in that Cream interview that this album is about the people inside of Walmart, which, is patronizing as hell. There's no Walmarts in San Rafael, if you understand what I mean, literally and symbolically. San Rafael's Marin County. There's parts of Marin County that aren't so nice, but I don't think San Rafael is one of them. But still, it's this idea of the people just in these wheelchairs and that they're being made by goblins not understanding global trade, which obviously is part of the problem. They watch TV about a man named Chandler Bing who died in a freak hot tubbing accident. So talking about the way that TV anesthetizes us, and is this mind-blowing? Is this the first time a punk artist or post-punk artist or anybody has said, hey man, we're just being brainwashed by TV? No, it's not. But maybe we need to say it more. Maybe we need to be past the postmodern and get into some kind of state where we can actually talk about this problem. True story. Chandler Bing was played by Matthew Perry, was the guy's name. And his mom, I used to work at Blockbuster Video. That's how old I am. And his mom used to come in, and whenever Matthew Perry was on like the cover of Entertainment Weekly or People or whatever, she'd come into Blockbuster and she'd buy every single issue. So that's sweet. I always think about that when I think about the fact that guy died. Spent his time drinking hot dog flavored water on the popular TV show called Tub Girls. If you look up what Tub Girl is, you will find people say, don't look it up. So I didn't. So I don't know what Tub Girl is. But I learned with the 2 girls, 1 cup thing. When people say don't look for stuff, when people say don't look at Goatsy, I don't look at Goatsy. So I don't know what Tub Girl is. Feel free to tell me if you want in the comments, but I'm not going to read it. Okay, this is interesting. I don't want to pay for anything, clothes and food and drugs for free. If it was 1970, I'd have a job at a factory. So I think this is great because I don't know if this is from the position of he's trying to imagine he is one of the people inside of Walmart who thinks this way, or if he's talking about the way that socialists think, that they don't want to pay for everything and it would be they'd work in a factory. This line actually works perfectly to criticize both the left and the right and their unrealistic expectations and their lack of understanding of the way in which globalization has made the world the way that it is. I am a man that's made of meat and you're on the internet looking at feet. It's just what we are. We're made out of meat and people do look at feet. I'll never forget. First time I ever learned about a foot fetish, I was hanging around with a friend of my ex-wife. At the time we were married. At the time I thought the guy was cool. He's not. And we were somewhere in Santa Barbara, and he was trying to explain to me. He's like, if I see a woman wearing sandals, it's like she just took her bra off. And I was like, yeah, all right. Well, cool. Thanks for telling me. Very cool. All right. Didn't know that was a thing. Now I do. I hate everything that I see and I just want to disappear. Am I going to do the professor thing and be like, even though he's expressing this with the comedic details, the actual ennui that he is expressing is profound and felt by all people in our post-industrial / hyper-globalized society in which we are constantly striving to find some sort of meaning, some sort of greater sense of who we are, but we are just bags of meat looking at pictures of feet on the internet. I don't know. I guess I did just say that. Moms, OnlyFans, more kinds of jokes, funny jokes. The thing about this that I like, I'm gonna move over here. The thing I like about this whole album and his whole lyrical style is, it reminds me, you remember the Butthole Surfers? You probably don't. But like, he has a way of writing lyrics that if I were in high school and I heard these lyrics and my friends heard these lyrics, we would have loved this album and we would have just quoted it all the time because it's that kind of comedy. It's that kind of turns of phrase. Next song is called Bog Body, which was recorded, this is true, in the bottom of a bog. I'm not that guy, pal. I'm not Fantano or Beato. I'm not them who's going to say like, why is this sound like it's not recorded well? I met them last week. Very nice guys. That's not how they talked. I don't worry about sound. I don't worry about that. But this song, what the hell's going on with the sound on this thing? Why does it sound so weird? Why does it sound so underwater? I don't know, but I like it. It's going back. This feels like Cave World Part 2. It really does. It feels like it's building on a lot of those themes. This is about a woman who is underwater and found, an ancient like Lucy or Udzi, these kinds of famous prehistoric humans that are found from time to time. Encino Man is maybe the most famous one. Evidence that they did used to wheeze the juice in prehistoric days. But the idea that people would be jealous of such a well-preserved body, it builds really well off of the bag of meat idea. The idea that we're all just these animalistic substance thing, and the idea of being preserved for so long that you would be jealous. You'd be jealous of a long dead corpse. I like it. I love the singing, the way the singing is sort of at odds with the guitar and the bridge. And then we get to the best song on the album, Uno 2. Secret Life of Pets, the song. So great faraway sounds. This reminds me a lot of a sort of Charlie Watts beat. He is hitting the hi-hat and the snare at the same time, but it still sort of has that chap, cap, chap, chap. Really nice drum beat. Nice, simple synthesizers. I think it's a 1-4-5 chord progression, Beato Finity. I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. I like the simplicity of this song, and then we get to these lyrics. And the lyrics, to me, this is the centerpiece of the album. So if you don't know Sebastian Murphy's lyrics, he's obsessed with shrimp, and with doggies. Lots of doggies. Got doggies back there. You see the doggies over there? Okay, so I gotta keep moving out my legs here. So I found a crouton underneath a futon. Mama said I couldn't eat it because all my teeth are gone. So I think this is from the perspective of a dog because it's all about his vet. My personality is based on food now. I think what he's trying to do in this whole opening thing here, a man made out of meat, the bog body, this, is emphasize our animalistic nature, that who we are, what we are, is just bags of meat that need meat. That's what we are. That's what human beings are. Despite all our rage, we're still just a rat in a cage. And despite all of our airs and our advanced degrees and our fancy jobs, we're bags of meat that need meat. And so when he makes these comparisons to dogs, I think it's on purpose that he's singing about his dog, who I'm just going to imagine is called Uno. He's talking about Uno, but he's also talking about himself. My personality is based on food now. Food is what we consume. How much of our personality is based on what we consume? I don't know. You tell me, music lover. Okay, you tell me. You tell me, music lover. You tell me, motorcyclist. You tell me, skateboarder. So much of our personality is what we consume. And that's how dogs are. Dogs are food motivated. Take it from Bogdan. He's my veterinarian. His folks are from Croatia. They've been through some shit, man. I seem like a bitch when I talk about Swedish politics. Beautiful lyric. I talked to my wife. My wife is from Yugoslavia. When Yugoslavia broke up, Croatia and Serbia broke apart, and all the different countries broke apart into individual countries. It was a terrible civil war in most of our lifetimes. Okay? And I checked in with her, and she said, yeah, Bogdan is a Croatian name. Like, that's not a random name. Like, there are some people from Serbia named Bogdan, but that's the kind of name that would indicate that it is. So this is what it's saying. And a lot of people who fled Yugoslavia ended up in Sweden, such as the best athlete in the history of Sweden, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Okay? All right, fine. Peter Forsberg's pretty good too. The best non-winter athlete in the history of Sweden came because of the dissolution of Yugoslavia as well. And I love this idea that this dog / him, right? He is the dog and the dog is him. Now I want to be your dog. His dog is him and he is the dog. And like, I feel like such a bitch when I talk about Swedish politics. So he's a bitch because he's a female dog. But also just that the things that you could possibly complain about versus the absolute ghouls and terrible ethnic cleansing that were occurring during our lifetime in Europe. Yikes. Or maybe he's Australian. I never really listen when he's talking about himself. Talking about our self-centeredness and our obsession with ourselves. But this is where it gets deeper, because he starts talking about his relationship to his vet / his doctor / experts. When I see my veterinarian, it feels a little scary. I sleep a weird sleep and I wake up in an area. In the back of the facility, the doctors do activities that involve the trade of rotten teeth, exotic breeds especially. Human beings have such a little understanding of the medical process, of how things work. That was just displayed by the fact that COVID happened, and COVID resistance and vaccine resistance and all this. No one likes experts anymore. No one listens to experts anymore. We hate experts. But when we need them, we need them. So that's the problem, is dogs need vets, but they don't understand them. Humans need doctors, but they don't understand them. And instead of treating doctors with respect and care and just saying, well, you're the goddamn expert. You didn't go to 8 years of medical school just to be called Mr. Evil. You want to be doctor. You did all of this work to have this information. So if you tell me to do something, I will listen to you. But this is the modern conspiratorial view, that if a doctor is caring for me and I don't know what they're doing, then they're doing something nefarious. That's the perspective. This human being is him and not him at the same time. Is Bogdan my enemy? Does he want the best for me? What's he doing with my teeth? Is he taking them to Australia? Just beautiful. Hey, do you want some hope? Look up the student protests in Serbia that are going on right now. If you want some hope, learn about that. Learn about how they use actual direct democracy. Look about the ways that they're shutting down the government and fighting against impossible odds without any violence and without any bending. Look it up. It's an amazing story. One of my favorite stories happens to do with Croatia. Remember I talked about the civil war that was just terrible and all the atrocities on all the sides and everything? Although, to be honest, Serbia is mostly responsible for most of the atrocities. Not all, but most. But the Serbian protesters have gone into Croatia. And they've been welcomed by the people of Croatia, because the Croatians know their enemies are not the students, are not the people of Serbia. Their enemies are the people, the ghouls at the top who are controlling everything. And so they are all chanting together in a language that they can mutually understand. Jedan svet, jedan borba. One world, one fight. So, hey, if you get too pessimistic after listening to this album, check that out. Because it's disorienting to have no power. It's disorienting to not know what you're doing. I love the rumbling sounds. They just are a great sounding band. Like, I've talked about the lyrics, but they're awesome. They're really fun to listen to. You know, I listen to music all the time with my 3-year-old, well, my 2-year-old and my 8-month-old, and this gets the legs kicking on the 8-month-old and the 2-year-old. I've been teaching her how to drum. I drum on the table all the time. I'm teaching her 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we get to Pyramid of Health, which is just a Nirvana song. It's just a Nirvana guitar line, like an electric guitar, where most of what you're hearing is not actually from the pickups, but just from outside. My stomach is fucked from eating too many cigarettes. I still think this is a dog, because some dogs eat cigarettes. A friend of mine had a dog named Cora, and he would walk her around in Boston Common, and that fucking Labrador would eat cigarettes all the time. So again, I think he is a dog, and he's talking about dogs, and he's talking about people, and he's talking about himself, because it's very clear he's led a very rough, self-destructive life, as is indicated in there. Just these great low horns and whiny sounds. It's about kind of health cults. And this goes back again. The whole album's so freaking connected. I'm starting to understand it. Everybody. That if you don't believe in your veterinarian, you are going to believe absolute gobbledygook from idiots. That's what this is. These layers and layers of guitars and grumbling sounds from the guitar and all these lyrics about alternative health solutions, when really, I hate to tell you this, Western medicine is the best medicine in the history of civilization. I'm sorry to say that. I know you'd think that people from 1,000 years ago would have had figured it all out, except their life expectancy was 27 years. So hey everybody, props to Western medicine. That's why we have it. That's why we made all those universities, and why we have all these hospitals, and why we as a civilization have been trying to push forward to make and create experts who can innovate, and we can listen to them, or we can do our own research ourselves into the grave. Dirty Boys is not my favorite. Dirty Boys is more kind of welfare jazzy back there. There is a way to read this where it's about the sort of contagiousness of Dirty Boys. And maybe this is kind of just the typical Viagr Aboys trope of them being wild guys. And if they hang out with you, you're going to do ayahuasca and go all wicky wacky wookie. Or maybe it's a pro-immigrant song that talks about the way that sometimes people perceive of immigrants as having a semi-contagious property to them. I don't know. It's a good song. I like it. I don't skip it or nothing, but it's not as interesting as the previous songs. And then we get to Medicine for Horses. Again, left and right. So people on the left will abuse ketamine, which is just horse medicine, and then people on the right will abuse ivermectin for horses because it's horse medicine. Hey, everybody, human beings are not actually horses, though. We're not actually horses. We're bags of meat, and horses are bags of meat, but we're different bags of meat. And veterinarians and doctors don't have the same job. The lilac tree appears to be blooming. That's nice. We thought it was dead. Almost a Where's My Mind opening here, the bass rumbling and single guitar notes. Then the way he sings, it's kind of Nick Cavey. Hey baby, can I borrow your... Not that Nick Cavey. Hey baby, can I borrow your car? I want to drive into a wall and make us two-dimensional. By the way, I need your credit card. I need a way to pay a guy to get my pineal gland recalcified. Pineal gland is part of your brain. And this is true. The guy who wrote I Think Therefore I Am, Descartes, one of the founders of Western philosophy. I wouldn't say Western philosophy is necessarily the best. I mean, I think it's great, but it's not incontestable. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is this. He believed the human soul was found in the pineal gland. That's what he thought it was. So I don't know. I need to pay a guy to get my soul recalcified. That might be it. I like this idea of him being the dirty, scuzzy boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whatever that is. Years ago in the plains of North America, there weren't no rules about nothing, and you could pay a guy to get his horse to stomp you on the head. This mythologizing of the past when things were simpler and things were more wild and we were more at tune with nature. Life is hard and harder when you like it harder, at least when your subconscious seems to like it hard. Hey buddy, stop thinking so much. I don't think he'll be watching this video. If he is, hi. But don't worry about it. That's okay. You don't need to think about it. Teller is the only thing that made me stop thinking about the plains of North America. This is what he longs for. And I like the kind of junky demo sound at the end. We get to the next song, Waterboy, which is the story of someone named Robert Boucher, who worked for a college football team. I get one bad joke. One bad joke, and I'm done. Medulla oblongata. Shout out to my people who get that joke. This weird pitched up story. Like, dude, who looked like a raisin. Very Rolling Stonesy spoken verse, laid back, sleeping for days, spend all night at the nail salon, drinking chicken water. What I like about this is that I think this must be probably the first track on the second side, and he's returning to the all right, okay. A lot of this album has that looseness, that kind of all right, okay. Apparently it says los across his head, which I read somewhere means loose, so maybe that makes sense. There's kind of loose. But I think the theme of this song is I'm a loser. That's what I think it is. And then we get to Store Policy, and I think the theme of this song is also I'm a loser. It has this kind of bratty snare, and then when you realize this snare is all over the place, it's like so a snare drum is the drum that you hit that goes ping, kind of like that. And it has a signature snare drum sound on this. And if you didn't like it, it's almost like that Saint Anger. I mean, it doesn't sound like the Saint Anger snare by Danish drummer. Don't confuse Danes and Swedes. They both get angry. Lars Ulrich. Oh my God. Lars Ulrich is from Marin County and Danish. Look at that. Some kind of connection there. It's totally irrelevant, Sky. Who cares? But you could almost think, let's return to my point. Return to my point, ADHD, man. They don't care about the lilacs. Return to my point. There is a signature snare sound in the same way there is a signature snare sound on Saint Anger. And I like this snare sound a lot. The rhythm here is almost like a jambalaya, not fade away rhythm. You know, bah, 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 bah. And it's all about, I'm sorry, you have to leave. Touching myself by the health food shelf. It's our policy. I'm sorry, sir, but you've got to leave. Playing around almost in a Radiohead-ish way with these rote sentences, these rote automatisms that people say. How do you get someone out of a house, out of a store? You want to say, dude, get the fuck out of here. You got to stop touching yourself by the health food. But instead, you have to say, I'm sorry, sir, we have a policy. That's the way we go out. It's just the life of a scumbag. Can I tell you what I like about the production on here? You're listening, so I can. Oh no, my disc is almost full. If this video cancels unexpectedly, at the very end, there will be a little box where I will record the rest, okay? I have so many computer problems. This is not good stuff, so we'll have to see what happens. My favorite thing about this song is the way the flute threatens everybody. Like, you're just threatened. Like, when is this flute going to come in? It's just always underneath. It just sounds so awesome, and there's this killer interlude with no drums, and it's just the bass and the flute. The almost flute on this song is my favorite part of the entire album. Then we get to the next song, UN33D Me. You Need Me, or You Need Larry Bird. I don't know which one it is. I can make your girl turn around. I can drink a lot of beer. I did watch. I don't usually watch Fantano's videos before I make mine, but I did watch the Needle Drop on this album, and he read this as a genuine love song about someone that he needs. I don't read it that way. I read this as a pathetic song between a man and his fans. I think he's talking about an asymmetrical relationship, a parasocial relationship, and about the power he has over people, and how ultimately trivial that power is, because the things he can do that are impressive are get girls to turn around, drink a lot of beer, and he knows trivia. He knows little things about World War II which don't mean anything, and he even barely knows them. That's why it's called trivia, because it's trivial. I think this is a searing look into himself and the uselessness of himself, and who cares about what he knows and he can do, because none of it means anything, and he's just impressing a bunch of nobodies. That's the way I read it. You tell me in the comments, who's right? Me or my esteemed colleague from Connecticut? Who I was eating dinner with exactly 1 week ago. That was cool. Best in Show. Back-to-back songs where they use the guitar distortion almost like rhythm, like they turn it off and on. So like and clapping and bongos. This song reminds me strongly of Can't You Hear Me Knocking Off of Sticky Fingers. But the whole song is just a bed for this poetry. I survived sacrificial ritual. I was gutted like a fish and stabbed by a shadow man from an ayahuasca cult. He talks a lot about ayahuasca. There's a great thing he talks in here about people who come up and talk to him and say, I experienced an ayahuasca where I was able to reconnect with my daughter. Isn't that amazing? And he's like, dude, just go talk to your daughter. You don't need to have the mediary of the drugs, you know? I floated down a black river into an ancient structure resembling Skeletor's lair. Oh, everything's all connected, everybody. Is this a Yugoslavian Masters of the Universe children's book? It absolutely is. And you can see Skeletor's lair right there. Castle Grayskull? Is that what he called it? I don't know. But yeah, so this was actually this was the book that my wife used to read when she lived in Serbia, and it's written in Croatian, Serbo-Croatian. There you go. It was made in Split. So Skeletor, that's cool. I got monkeypox in the 90s, and I was sent to an institution. This is kind of like Magic Mountain, which was referenced a lot in another album that I reviewed recently. Tell me which album it is in the comments, because I'm getting nervous about the thing turning off. If I grow up, I get my own phrase. I can walk through walls. I'm going to find an orb with God inside it. I'm going to eat insects and amphibians just to slow down my immune system. This is that great quotable stuff that I think does have meaning. I think it does, but it's a very poetic, oblique meaning. I love the self-loathing, the dissatisfaction, the alienation with the modern life. It's very jammy. Lots of horns and saxophone, and just at a certain point there's like Money for Nothing style guitar. Wham, bam, down, wow, wow, wow. And then the whole album ends with River King, which is a great scene in Spinal Tap. If you've never seen Spinal Tap, you are really, if you have to choose between seeing Citizen Kane, Godfather, and Spinal Tap, see Spinal Tap first. That's how important it is. If you like Viagr Aboys to make it to 33 minutes in and you've never seen Spinal Tap, you must rectify that immediately. There's a scene where Christopher Guest's character is playing this very sweet song on a piano, and the director Marty DeBurgi comes up and says, "This is nice. What's that?" It was like a cross between Mozart and Bach. I call it Mach. He's playing this beautiful, sweet tune, and then he says, "What's it called?" He says, "It's called Lick My Love Pump." And it's very incongruous. And this is what that reminds me of. It's sort of an incongruous, sweet piano song at the end. It feels like a very real, sweet song that I don't think, again, is an actual love song about a woman. I think this is a continuation of that other song. I think this is a love song about his fans, about people who like him. I think about you playing video games all day. I've been thinking of you since we met. I like to imagine the song as him meeting somebody meeting him. And when you meet someone famous, it's a big deal to them. It's a big deal to you, but not to them, right? There's a famous thing Paul McCartney said, or Mick Jagger, I forget which one, who just said being famous is meeting people all day. That's all you do. If Paul McCartney was in a room and you shook his hand, you would probably mention that every single fucking time you ever heard the Beatles for the rest of your life, and he'll never remember you. So I see this as being a reverse on that, and being like, hey, I remember. You probably don't think so while you're just sitting there playing video games, but it means a lot to me. I don't know, but I love his vocals, and the dude needs to quit smoking, because you can hear how hard it is for him to get the breath out. It sounds like he has like early COPD, you know. So anyways, I hope that's just me hearing it. So there you go. There's my review. The computer did not crash out on me. I am not watching the Barcelona and Inter game, which I would like to be doing, but I'm not, because that's how little time I have to make videos in my life. So I made this for y'all. So I hope you appreciate it, or as it says in this book, He-Man se uputi katunelu. All right. Well, until next time, tell me what you thought of the album. Smash the like bucket. AVAA means awesome video as always. And I love dogs.